Hello, YouTube. I just got back in from work, and this looks bad. How's that? Still kind of rough. Not good lighting. Just got in from work. Decided I was going to snuggle up here in the recliner by myself. And a little thought came on my mind. It's a hot take, and I don't think the Roja Dove is really a perfumer. Roja. It's Roja Dove. Who gives a dang, man? If you want your name to be Roger, spell it Roger. No one really cares. I don't think he's really a perfumer. If you smell a lot of his perfumes if you smell all of his perfumes taken together, he has no signature style. He has no signature accord. It's all over the place. You know what I mean? It's just all over the place. No, excuse me. And I'm not meaning that, his fragrances are so unique, but all his fragrances are all over the place. What do I mean by that? It's hard to explain. People like Francois Demachet. If you smell a Francois Demachet fragrance versus like an Olivier Polge fragrance, and I'm not meaning Chanel versus Dior, or older Dior, I should say. There's two different styles in that. They're both French. They're both usually high quality. But they have a different style about going about things. And Roja's fragrances are all over the place. There's no set style. I guess you would call it style. There's no set style in their perfume making. You take Julian Rasconnay and let's find another one. Bertrand Duchefort. Two very completely different styles of making perfumery. They're both great at making French perfumes, specialize, I would say, in making French style perfumery, but very different perfumers in the way that they create a fragrance. Raj is all over the place. I can't remember which perfume, whether it's Givaudan or IFF, you name it. Those are kind of two of the most prominent ones. Excuse me whilst I hydrate. But you take those two and you take him into his perfume brand into consideration, and I think what he does is young perfumers who do not have a name in the industry, students, people who work at IFF or Givaudan or these other perfume oil, these perfume making places. I think that chemists and people, and really chemists who work there, go to his brand and make perfumes. Because if you really smell a lot of Raja's fragrances, they're not elegantly and eloquently done, in my opinion. Like when you smell Creation, let's take Creation Enigma, for example. It gets compared to L'Artisan Mon Numero 10. It also gets compared to Les Indemnes Daways Vinny Havon, but Mon Numero 10 never gets compared to Vinny Havon. Crazy how that works, because probably never, I don't know. It probably never really smelled it. Someone just said it, so they just keep picking it up and talking about it, bringing it over, just getting on the wagon, just getting on the wagon. But you smell Creation E, and it doesn't smell like a put together perfume. It's not well rounded. Let's take Vinny Havon, for example. Antoine Lee. it smells well rounded. It smells put together. Um, it smells like a whole made perfume. It smells like everything has macerated correctly. When you put it in the bottle and you spray it, it oxidizes in a good way. Whereas with a lot of Rojas, they don't oxidize quite well. It's kind of like when you take some Insar Oud fragrances, for example, versus let's use Les Indemodables as a brand. They use a lot of high quality naturals, and they use a lot of naturals in the perfume itself. Um, and they oftentimes oxidize, age, uh, mature beautifully inside the bottle after you've sprayed it and after they've sat for a while. Whereas a lot of where there's a lot of Insar Ouds, and I'll be the first to tell you I'm not afraid to go against the Insar Oud guys. Complete hypocrites um, when it comes to a lot of things, and I'm not pinpointing Muslims at all, but very hypocritical. They want to proclaim and talk about Islam and being Muslim and being proud, but they're really hypocritical of the things they do. I mean, uh, I am a hypocrite myself. We all have hypocritic actions, but they themselves display it quite loudly, especially in the way they do business. You know, I slip up, I say bad words. You know, if I stub my toe on the end of the table, I slip up and say a bad word. I do things I shouldn't, say things I shouldn't, but they're really out there promote, like, you know, their whole business, their whole pyramid scheme, um, which is basically what it is. It goes against, you know, Muslim and Christian and Jewish beliefs, but that's a complete different video for a complete different day. But circling back to Roja's fragrances, this video was just supposed to be like a 2-minute hot take. They don't smell put together. They don't smell well rounded. They don't smell whole. When I spray, let's take for example, Elysium. Elysium, let's be 100% honest. Elysium is their take on a blue fragrance with you know, well, Elysium Parfum Cologne is their take on a blue fragrance. Elysium Eau de Parfum or Parfum, whichever one it um, is their take on a pineapple Aventusy type fragrance. Don't argue with me. You're not going to win because they have black, and this is not the only notes that are in Aventus. They have black currant, they have the ambergris, they have the musk, they have the rose, they have the pineapple. Can't tell me they're not trying to do something there. You smell Aventus, regardless of what people are saying about batch codes, how long it lasts, the projection, the longevity, the compliments, all that boring crap that people want to mention when they try to justify how much they're spending on a perfume, rather than just saying, "Oh, I have an issue of spending money on perfume. I probably need to get a hold of it." Nonetheless, I digress. You smell uh, Elysium, Elysium Parfum Cologne, and then the other newest one they done. They don't really smell put together compared to Aventus. Aventus is a well-rounded fragrance. It does smell full. It does smell whole. It doesn't smell like there's parts of it missing, and that is hard to explain to people who are not perfume people, or people who are in perfume communities on Facebook and think that because they have two versions, they have the Eau de Parfum or they have the EDT and the EDP of Sauvage, that they're perfume. They have big perfume. They have as jerk off. I mean, as Zerjoff. They have a bottle of jerk off. Zerjoff. They have, you know, you name it. They have 10 perfumes, or they have 10 colognes. They have 10 fragrances, and they think because they've watched some channels, or maybe they have a bigger collection, or maybe they have 100. And you go on here and you see some of these guys, and everyone's falling into it. They have the top 10 most complimented fragrances, and then they have the other top 10 niche, the top 10. They have all the top 10s that people are talking about. But you can look at their collection, and you can see that, oh, that's been cherry picked from these top 10 lists. They're not actually getting out there and smelling stuff. They're not bringing new stuff to the table. They're not trying stuff. They're not sampling things. They're not physically in the store sampling things, telling this pushy sales associate, get out of my face. Let me try what I want to try. And then on top of that, when they want to try fragrances, they just go for, what's the newest. I'll never forget one time when I was in college. No, I was in high school. I was in high school, and we were at the beach, and I was in Dillard's or Belk. I can't remember which one. And there was a guy walked up to the counter. I was smelling perfumes, and he said, what's the freshest men's cologne you got? What's the freshest one? And the guy, he was like, oh, here. He's like, oh, yeah, this smells pretty good. I'm gonna get it. So he walked up looking for the freshest, and I'm sure he probably had a girlfriend. He's like, I like men who smell fresh. He walked up. He's like, what's the freshest you got? And then he went based on the sales associate's opinion. He smelled it once off the strip. Like, yeah, I like that. I'm gonna get it. It's just crazy to think, and I know I look way too deep into stuff. I get way too caught up, and there's some Roja fragrances that are good. Don't get me wrong. I do like Elysium. I do like Elysium Parfum Cologne. I do like the new one. I do like them. I'm not saying that they are low quality perfumes, because they don't really smell cheap. They really don't smell like cheap quality. I don't think the blending is there. I mean, if you really do a deep dive into Roja, and he wants to say he's from Guerlain and all this other things, if you do some deep diving, he was in the marketing department. What does he really know? Sorry. Jesus Christ. Thank you, Lord. If you really want to do some deep diving into him, he was in the marketing department at Guerlain. And if you go back to the time of this marketing department, the marketing department sucked at Guerlain. I mean, they did not have Angelina Jolie. They didn't have these videos. I mean, it was very, which at the time it was a very, he worked there. The perfume videos weren't necessarily like how they are now. I mean, they were shorter. They were shorter clips, just 5 seconds and boom, you're done. And even at the time, that he was there, Guerlain was really a house name. And if you liked Guerlain, just like kind of now, and they've kind of changed within the past 5 years. If you bought a Guerlain, you bought it because you like Guerlain. You were a Guerlainophile. You love classic French perfumery. It wasn't that you wanted these, and a lot of Guerlains are absolutely beautiful smelling and are actually quite mass appealing and great quality, great blending. Some of them are quite in the past quite mass appealing. Some were kind of unique and daring, but a lot were quite mass appealing. And people really did love them. But anyways, back to Roja. I think that IFF, Givaudan, things like them, he commissions out their chemists that are not necessarily perfumers. That's the thing, and I'll oftentimes bring it up, is that every perfumer is a chemist, but not every chemist is a perfumer, if you know what I mean. Just like every cook is a baker, but not every baker is a cook. When you bake things, set. When it goes to baking a cake, for the most part, you have a set recipe. You have a set recipe. There's no, I have to have this much flour, have to have this much milk, have to have this much butter, have to beat it, have to, do this for this long, have to put it in the oven for this long. Whereas when it comes to being a cook um, or so on and so forth, you have to have your own personal touches. You have to know what to do. Oh, the pan's too hot. I got to know what to do. And I can't just put it in the oven and then go outside and smoke a cigarette, watch TV or something like that. So, anyways, that's my long hot take. Hope everyone has a good one.